You know, it is interesting. I'm reading all about this. Mahmoud Khalil. And do you know who his lawyers are, Joan? His lawyers in the past have represented members of Al-Qaeda and close associates of Osama bin Laden.
I think that says everything we need to know about this guy, right?
Well, let's see what Jonathan Fahey has to say. Jonathan, always great to have you on. Welcome on into WTN. And I mean, this guy, Mahmoud Khalil. So I guess the debate is this guy worthy of deportation? I mean, he hasn't been convicted of any crimes, but as I'm, reading up on all of this, they say that you can't deport somebody who has helped terrorist organizations. And it seems to me if he has worked with UNRWA, which supports Hamas, then he has helped terrorist organizations. What say you?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You don't have to be convicted of anything to be deported under that. You just have to be, I think it's reasonable grounds to believe you're supporting terrorists or something like that. And the other prong of it was they're using to deport him is that he's doing things adverse to Americans' national or foreign policy interests. So, handing out flyers on behalf of Hamas, a terrorist organization, is certainly adverse to our foreign policy interests. If more people support Hamas, that's detrimental to our foreign policy. So both of those make total sense. And I think what's interesting here, a couple things, which I'm sure you've pointed out, but how the Democrats are now in favor of free speech, particularly at Columbia University, is pretty remarkable. Like, this is where they want to stake their ground. The people that would want somebody fired for misgendering somebody and things like that will fight to the death for this guy, not literally to the death, but will fight tooth and nail for this guy. And the other thing, have you ever seen those surveys that show the colleges with the least free speech? And I think, it's Spire, that organization, but I think Harvard is routinely last, and I think Columbia is second to last, and they rate the free speech climate in Columbia as abysmal. So it's just funny that, the Democrats are now the free speech party, but if you wanted to go to a college campus and speak out against DEI or anything else, you would be run out of that place so quick. They run out conservative speakers routinely, but this guy that's supporting Hamas is their cause celeb. It's pretty remarkable to me.
So the question, because this guy's a green card holder, which means that he's a legal citizen. He's also, by the way, married to an American woman. So does that add any wrinkles to all of this?
The green card holder, I think it's just you're another step closer to citizenship. But no, those same prongs can remove him under that if it's adverse to American foreign policy or supporting terrorism. And just so you know, for the Supreme Court there's a crime called material support of terrorism, and the Supreme Court has ruled that bar is quite low as to what is material support. So certainly this idea of handing out flyers on behalf of a terrorist organization, I think, is arguably meets that prong anyway, even under a criminal standard. They probably won't go that far, but it does seem like, this is something they normally don't do. But again, I think it shows a sea change where, the Biden administration, everything was set up for the interest of the immigrant or the illegal alien. And the Trump administration is, let's put America first, American citizens first. So when in doubt, do what's in the best interest of American citizens, not the immigrant and often the illegal immigrant under Biden. So I think it just shows what the sea change is, which is, being here is a privilege. It's not a right. And we are going to put our interests ahead of the interests of immigrants and illegal immigrants.
Jonathan Fahey, former acting director of ICE under Donald Trump, term one. I guess and I played some audio from Senator Marsha Blackburn earlier, where she was also accusing this guy of being the ringleader. And I think it's been proven that he's also been the ringleader of these protests at Columbia University, where you have people that have been spat on. I believe that's assault, intimidation, probably vandalism, probably trespassing as well. So I would assume that if he was ultimately convicted of being a ringleader of those crimes, and I don't know what charges he would face and so forth, but that would also be another reason to get this guy out of our country, right?
Yeah, exactly. That could be other reasons to to remove him. And, what's going on at these campuses, it's not just these, like, friendly, innocent protests. There's a lot of intimidation, a lot of assaults. And Andrew McCarthy wrote a column, I don't know if it was a column, but it was something I saw that he had written about this, which talked about how this guy was sort of the mediator between the protesters and the university, which Andrew McCarthy equated that to basically being extortion. We'll tone down our protests and our violence if you make all these concessions to us, divest from Israel or whatever they were seeking. So that's also kind of an interesting aspect to it as well. But, what's been going on in Colombia, again, it's just so disgraceful, particularly in light of what I was talking about, how they don't ever respect free speech until it's pro-Hamas free speech. And then all of a sudden our universities are these bastions of free speech and critical thinking. It's pretty remarkable, and everybody that pays attention knows it's not remotely true.
Well, and there's a difference between free speech and, as we've well established here, so I'm going to move on, but there's a big difference between free speech and participating in protests where crimes are being committed, being the ringleader of these protests where crimes are being committed. And then, of course, we talk about the supporting of terrorist organizations and all of that. So to me, this is not a free speech issue. This is about deporting somebody who is committing crimes, who is facilitating crimes, and he is aiding and abetting terrorist organizations. And by the way, I think you probably heard when I came on that his attorneys are attorneys that have also represented, members of Al-Qaeda and associates of Osama bin Laden. So that, to me, as Jones said, tells you all you need to know. Now, moving on from there, ICE, their arrests have now topped 32,000 illegal aliens since Donald Trump took office. Apparently, the various holding facilities, I'm not sure about Gitmo, but, they're getting full up. As a former acting director of ICE under Donald Trump first term, what do you think? Thumbs up, thumbs down on what this administration is accomplishing?
Huge thumbs up, and even better than expected, and I expected a lot. I mean, they are, crushing it every single day. And, it just shows, really, it highlights what the Biden administration was doing and what they were not doing, which is they weren't doing anything on this issue, because the only real difference here is the effort and will to do this. They haven't gotten additional funding. They haven't gotten anything else. And yet they've basically shut down the border in terms of illegal crossings, probably shut down a lot of fentanyl from coming across. We don't necessarily know that, but it's just really the effort and the messaging. And it just highlights, we all know this, but for anyone that's in doubt, the Biden administration was doing this intentionally, and it's not even arguable now, because the only other option was like historic incompetence, but historic incompetence usually doesn't lead to the exact results you campaign on. So it's the only thing that really makes sense, and I hope everyone realizes the Biden administration was doing this for political reasons, and they were willing to sacrifice the safety, security of American citizens, as well as prosperity and all these other issues we talk about all the time.
6:45, Jonathan Fahey, hold on. Got a couple of more questions, including, of course, government shutdown. Time to check the roads on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Very much. As far as your weather today, it's going to be partly cloudy, a high of 76. Right now, 59 degrees, I believe we said, at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So there's these accusations now, Jonathan Fahey, that Biden's Department of Homeland Security, they say, was cooking the books to pump up ICE arrests, basically lying or falsify the number of arrests he was making under ICE, which, by the way, were already abysmal. Not real surprising that he was lying, right?
Not the least bit, and they basically lied about everything. But what they were doing here, which is so shameful, and remember, this came out, the information came out from the new director of ICE, who's not a political, now he's in a political job, but he was a career ICE official, so there's no reason to think these are anything but true. But they were basically processing people, counting them as arrests, but then releasing them out into our communities. Yep. So they were trying to get some credit that they were actually doing something while they were actually putting dangerous people out in the community and lying about it. But everything they did during the Biden administration with respect to immigration was always a lie. They say, oh, they're coming for root causes. And then they would say they're coming because they're asylum seekers, which are not the root causes they identified. And then they never, ever told the truth. They lied about Border Patrol agents. They lied about ICE agents. And it was just lie after lie after lie. And it's so shameful because, you know, politicians, we know they lie and we know other stuff. But when you do something that is so detrimental to the United States citizens, and you know, you think of the more notable cases like, you know, Laken Riley and Jocelyn Nungary that would be alive if not for the Biden administration. But there are many, many more, and there are gonna be more. That's the scary thing. There are people the Biden administration welcome in, probably flew in, that are going to commit horrible crimes, and we have not been able to get them out yet. And they did this for political reasons. It's one of the most shameful things ever done. And, you know, Secretary Mayorkas and all of these people, I hope they continue to have hearings on this and hold them to account and expose it even more to the public.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. All right. Looming possible government shutdown. So it's really interesting. House of Representatives, of course, as everyone knows, Republicans, they have gone ahead and got the continuing resolution to the Senate. The Senate, it's a little murky. I don't know. They need, I think, 7 or 8 Democrats to be able to vote for the continuing resolution to avoid a filibuster. I don't think they're going to make it. It looks like the Democrats are going to be holding the bag for a government shutdown.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable that, you know, the voice of reason in the Democratic Party is John Fetterman right now. And it's interesting that the Democrats are going to, you know, take this down because the Republican reaction may not be what they think. It might be, well, let's let it just shut down because the Republican position is we don't really need most of these workers anyway, and most of them are Democratic constituents. So if you're a government worker and you're looking at Chuck Schumer just putting your career in jeopardy because we don't know that they'll all come back, I think it's going to backfire on the Democrats big time. I think this will probably end up costing Chuck Schumer his leadership position because all he can do at this point is oppose Trump. You know, you think the smart move would be on this DOJ stuff to say, hey, why don't we find a way to work on this and we'll help you identify some cuts, but just not the way you're doing it. Let's do it a different, a more strategitic way or whatever they want to do. You feel like they could build a lot of credibility, and then if the Republicans, you know, slap their hands away, they look good, but it's just remarkable. All they can do is, you know, anything Trump does, they're against. He cures cancer, they don't want the cure. Whatever it is, it's just so amazing. But I think this is going to massively backfire because, you know, ultimately next week, the essential workers, which are a lot of the people that actually are essential, will still be going to work. So then it helps the DOJ people and everyone else identify who's not essential and puts their jobs at greater risk than they currently are now. So I think it's a massive mistake on the Democratic Party, but there's no strategic thinking in that party whatsoever because, you know, we could all sit back and think of everything they're doing just seems like a crazy reaction as opposed to, you know, their thoughtful ways to attack things, and they never take the thoughtful way. Yeah,
no, they don't. I mean, Trump derangement syndrome isn't really a strategy. I mean, it's just not. And so just like the media, just like Democrats of the past, just like a lot of folks in Hollywood, today's Democrats, whether we're talking about most in the House and probably all in the Senate, I don't know, but Trump derangement syndrome is not a strategy, and all it's doing is it does continue to destroy the Democrat Party. Jonathan Fahey, how can people follow you on X?
John for Fairfax, JONFORFAIRFAX.
All right, John for Fairfax on X. Thank you very much.